Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals today. Let me get a sip of my water first. Get my radio voice going and let's talk about this. All right, let's talk a little bit about diet extremism. And I would be someone who's an exception to this rule. And that's the problem with most influencers. Most of your influencers, they need to be exceptional in many ways. Therefore, they're going to do extreme diets that the vast overwhelming majority of you do not need to do. You do not need extreme diets. And for most of your goals, most lifters out there, again, unless you are trying to be your absolute best possible, and I'm going to assume if you're going to try to be your best possible and you're doing extreme diets, you're doing everything extreme because you have to. But that's not what most people want. Most people are not trying to be elite powerlifters. They're not trying to be on the cover of a magazine. They're not trying to win bodybuilding shows. They're not trying to get 500,000 followers on a fitness channel or page. They usually just want to be fit, strong, healthy, jacked, athletic. That's what most people are going to the gym that they want. You know, in general, they want to look good. They want to look way better than the average person. You don't have to be extreme to do that. It is just simply not necessary. Okay? You don't have to be extreme to have a 400-pound deadlift, guys. You don't. That is very basic programming will get you there. So when we come to those topics, everyone wants to do the extreme stuff. And look, like you'll see me discuss things where I've done purely plant-based, or like right now I'm doing some protein overfeeding with a heavy bias towards plant-based. But that doesn't mean that most of you need to do that. In fact, I think protein overfeeding is expensive and it's excessive for most people's goals. I have very specific goals that I'm trying to reach at the age of 47. You know, before anyone tries to jump in and say, oh, Jason, whatever, you're not that big or strong. I am a lean 220 pounds at the age of 47. I deadlift over 600 pounds. You guys watch me do rep work with 315 on a flat back pause bench with no wrist wraps. Just stop. Now, that being said, what do I mean extreme? Needing to do a ketogenic diet, that's extreme. Okay, let's keep in mind the health benefits are not there for everyone. There are people who medically benefit. Most of you probably don't. And the people who do these extreme diets, they skipped a lot of really important stuff they could have done in between to have gotten just as good a results without that extreme of a diet. I mean, that's a perfect example. Carnivore stuff. Really what most people need, or even excessive macro tracking, to where you every day feel like you got to track your carbs, fat, and protein to the exact gram, which you can't do. I think that's extreme. Here's what I would recommend for most people. What do you really need to be fit, healthy, gain muscle, lose fat, be athletic, be way healthier than the average person? 80% of your diet should be probably whole foods, plant-based. Okay? I think that's a good figure. Now, if you wanted to go more plant-based because you're not as concerned with hitting tons of protein, perfectly fine. Okay? Perfectly fine. If you're careful with it, someone could go 100% plant-based. Not a problem. But what I'm going to say for most people, probably at least 80% of your diet, whole foods and plant-based. Okay? You should probably keep your overall dietary fat relatively low. Right? Focus on carbs and protein. What should you minimize? You should be minimizing alcohol, refined sugars, saturated fat, animal fats in general. Okay? And anyone who wants to argue with that, I'm sorry, you don't have a leg to stand on. The overwhelming bulk of the scientific literature says all of that. That is well understood. And if you don't understand that that's the case, your argument needs to be with the overall mainstream research and multiple meta-analysis. Okay? Because the data is there on all those things. People love to argue those, but those are and that's exactly what I mean by some of the extreme diets. They don't seem to understand that you should be moderating those things. And I see it on both ends. I have seen people whose diet is so extreme that they actually think saturated fat is good for you or healthy, or that your body really benefits from it, which is insane based on the data. And I have also seen people who are very anti-animal fat on the other extreme, that anything plant-based and carb is good. And they're like, refined sugars are fine. Drink tons of it. High fructose corn syrup, great. Table sugar, great. Okay, those are stupid extremes. Those are idiotic. I don't think a person needs to eat 100% clean either to be healthy. A treat meal every now and then is fine. I don't like the 20% junk every day. I don't think that's healthy, because you're not going to moderate those other things if you're doing that. But do I think if a person wants to eat really clean and have a big cheat meal every single week, that it's going to be a problem for the average person? Like every Friday night you need to go out and do whatever your thing is, your pizza or your ice cream or whatever, perfectly fine. It's the weekend long binges. I think a lot of times people trying to work the treats in every day is a problem. But that's what we should be eating. We should be moderating those other things. We should be getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, mostly whole foods. Okay? I think you should have a loose tracking of your calories. I don't think people necessarily need to be obsessive. Again, if you're not trying to get really ripped, or you're not trying to absolutely maximize body composition, I don't think you have to track macros absurdly close. You just don't. Okay? If your goal is to end up, like if you need to lose weight, you don't have to track your exact macros, not even close. If your goal is to just end up with slightly visible abs and zero love handles, and that is your ideal physique, you don't need to know whether you had 200 versus 230 grams of carbs today. As long as your calories are pretty much where you want them to be and you have a decent control over them, you're good. Okay, if you're lifting, trying to focus on muscle, you should probably have a good guesstimate of your protein intake. Again, should probably keep that on the lower side, really minimize animal fats, really minimize refined sugars, all the way to saying there's no reason to eat refined sugars at all. Quit adding extra fats to things, butter, added oils. You don't need any of that. The only reason to add those things is because you intentionally need to gain weight for bulking purposes, in which case I do get where that has its place. Sometimes an added fat becomes necessary to gain weight for certain lifters. If you are not struggling with the inability to gain body weight, you don't need to do that. And it's not ideal. And that's what I mean. This is what I mean. It's a balanced, healthy diet. You want a cheat meal every week, perfectly fine. Keep your calories, pretty close to where you want them. Follow those basic rules, right? If you want to lose weight, increase calories. Or if you want to gain weight, increase calories. If you want to lose weight, decrease them a little bit. Done. And that's it. That's not extreme. People don't need to go to these other extremes unless you have very extreme goals. And the problem is some of these other extremes are actually stupid and unhealthy and don't even work that well. But in this world, everyone wants to market the extreme diet, the fad diet, the named diet. This is a problem. And it's stupid. It's stupid. And again, I understand why certain people, especially because of what you maybe do for a living, you have to have an extreme diet. But the majority of people out there don't need that. They simply do not have to have it. And I'm talking 99% of people who go to the gym. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.